I'm going to work with a file that looks like yours, but obviously has less studies. This is the file we created in class. I was lazy, I didn't go home to work and do my homework. Of course, you should have 9 of those, right? Not 2, as you can see in my file. And process step D is the process step that has your composition with windows, with openings. So extract surface has already been performed. And also make sure that in all of your process steps you keep the wireframe, the grid wireframe, as a way for us, the viewers, to recognize how your geometry was generated. Nice. Kaylee, would you mind turning off the lights? I think you guys will be more comfortable. Just everything, yeah. Thank you. Okay, so first, number 1, we want to create line drawings of the concept of this composition. That's why we will work with axonometric drawings, no? With parallel drawings. So first thing we want to do is to go under the other perspective or whatever else the view says up here. Right click, go under the set view menu, isometric, right? This is the instruction. The instruction says isometric and southwest. I thought that this view will be perfect for most of you. Now, for some of you, maybe it's not great, right? So maybe you guys want to choose southeast according to your composition. It's up to you to figure out what is the best one over here. So, set view, isometric, southwest, and here is what I get. Now, obviously, I want to zoom in to my object so I can see clearly and then save the camera. So I will go here, zoom in, process step D. I will figure out which is the camera that shows the detail of my work. And now I'm ready to save this camera. Everybody, you remember, you right click, you go under set view, named views. As soon as you click here, a new window will pop up. And you're all familiar with that. You have to go under the save button and you can save as many views as you want, as you like. So I will save that as favorite ISO, because I will have also favorite perspective views, why not, later on. And I will say OK. Right away a new thumbnail appears in this window. So if I do something else in my file, so I have to scroll down, up, move around, I can go here to this window, double click in the save view, which is my favorite ISO, and retrieve the view. Now, next step, I want to create Make2D diagrams. So I will have to select my geometry. I see that still most of you guys are afraid a little bit of the program. So you're trying with small windows and then one by one, so you're holding Shift and you try one by one. Obviously now we have to feel confident and comfortable. Just zoom out, drag a very big window, a very big brave window that includes everything. Validate that all of the lines are in now, they are all selected, and then I will double click again to my favorite ISO. I will bring the camera back and I'm ready. I will type Make2D. Perfect. So the instruction said you only want the current view. I see most of you did 4 views. It's fine, right? It's even better. You have also elevation and top and right. But now we have to talk as professionals and clients, right? So if the client asks for one thing, you cannot provide 10, or you cannot provide half of it. You have to provide exactly what you were asked. So if I am your client, I asked only for this current view. Okay. The other thing is that you have to show hidden lines for both of your different geometries. So one geometry is the wireframe, this grid line that is the guideline for you to create the composition, and the other geometry is the actual composition, no? The surfaces. So in order to have hidden lines for both of those geometries, you have to say maintain source layers. And of course, if your organization is correct, then you will have in a different layer the surface of your composition, and in another layer the lines of your grid. Okay, so hidden lines, maintain source layers, and I'm good to go. I will say OK. Now, I see some of you Of course, you all know that the make 2D will come under the top view, right? So most of you kind of lost the selection. So I propose before you lose the selection, you move the drawing. But if you lost it, it doesn't matter, right? So Roseli, this was your problem. She was like, okay, now how can I select everything? There is this magic command that we have seen that is called select last, which means that it will select all of the latest objects that were generated through the latest command. So if I type SEL last, here are my lines, no? Now I'm ready to move them outwards. And if I zoom in, I think I'm happy, I'm satisfied. It seems that I have both hidden lines and visible lines, and they have different colors. So if in your screen everything is black and white, then you have a problem. This is the time for you to go under the Make 2D layer that was generated automatically. I never created this layer. So by just typing the command, the program, as you know, comes up with this series of layers. In here, under the visible, I have both wireframe and spaces. If you don't have two different layers, it means that you never set maintain source layers. Kelly, is that clear? Yes. Same thing for the hidden lines. I have to validate that I have two different layers here. Nice. It seems that I have a healthy composition going on. Next step, I will select my composition. Now, pay attention. You cannot be in a view that is not top, it's not planar, right? So you have to ensure that you right-click, set view, top. It should be a plan, right? You're working with 2D drawings right now. And now you're able to select what you generated and say File, Export Selected Lines. Let's save as Illustrator file .ai. You have to name that correctly as Noelia did, right? I'm saving on desktop for now. Of course, you will save wherever you want. I propose that you say snapshot of current view, because if you preserve the model scale, in your Illustrator, probably this is going to come either as very big drawing that you have to scale down a lot, or tiny drawing. So for now, the snapshot works for us, because we will not print in scale anyways. We will scale down to place it in our book. So we're good. Okay. So go back now under my desktop. This is what I created. Do you guys have a question? Right. 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 From the top view, you export always. The Make 2D is here, but you have to, now you have to export from Rhino to Illustrator, correct? Of course. The Make 2D was from this favorite ISO. Camera. So this is my camera. I selected and I typed Make 2D. Hidden lines and maintain source layers. I said OK here. Now, always the Make 2D, as you guys know, go to the origin point 0, 0. So you have to move it outside. And here's what you get. You get a 2D line drawing that though simulates a 3D camera. Your camera is 3D, but Illustrator works only in 2D, no? It's not a modeling software. For that reason, you always want to export from the top view, so you don't have distortions. If I export from this view, this is how my Make 2D will look like, and this is not correct. Yes, Donovan. Follow again what I'm doing and interrupt me while I'm in the process, okay? So I'm under my selected best camera. I know that my design is organized correctly, right? So you guys have to make sure that the lines belong in a different layer than the composition. So right now, I have lines that they belong under the wireframe layer, and then I have my composition that belongs under the spaces layer. Okay? So, I'm ready for Make 2D. I will select my objects, I will type Make 2D. And Donovan, what's your question now, here? Okay. So I will say okay here, no? And now we'll move that out. Right, a blue and a red. The white lines are the hidden lines. They come automatically from the Make 2D command. If you guys feel that you have questions, please do this process 100 times so till you understand what's going on, no? Okay? It's a matter of you experimenting now. We have seen that many, many times already. Is that clearer now, Donovan? Okay. So I move on. As we said, you have to go under the top view, select the lines you just generated, and as we said, File, export the selected lines, Adobe Illustrator, give a nice name, save. In this new window that pops up, you can say snapshot of current view, since we are not going to print in scale anyways, okay? Say okay here, I'm going to say cancel because I already did that. And the new Illustrator file will be created for you. I saved on desktop, so here it is. I will open that file in Illustrator. And while this file is opening, I know already through Noelia's exercise assignment here that what I have to do extra is to basically render from the same view, and then in Illustrator place both the rendering and the line drawing one on top of the other, no? So instead of just losing my time waiting for Illustrator to open, I will go back to my file, I will go back to my favorite camera, so favorite ISO, make sure that you're under the shaded mode so you can see what's going on, and I will render very fast. So who would like to explain to me the few steps we have been doing so far when we are rendering? Very fast. Now you guys should know those by heart, no? Very nice. Okay, so one of you, Tatiana or Kelly, who would like to take over? Kelly, are you ready to take over? Okay, Tatiana, you take over. Do I have options in front of me? Right, so toolbar, all the way down, new V-Ray for Rhino, and options. Next. Okay, you guys have to pick the maximum. For now, we'll pick something low so it doesn't take too much time. Yes? So right click, create material standard. Right, so what material is this? Let's name it first. Is this your composition? Yes. Light gray, gray, whatever you want. Yes? Okay, that's an extra thing Tatiana is doing, which is good. So here we have a reflection too. Nice. Right, so I selected my object and I will right click and say apply material to the selection. So I will go under the scene materials, I will right click, create material standard. So what she's trying to do now is to render the lines as a material. Right. So That's a good question though. Noelia had the same question. Can we render the lines? We can do it. We can render, but why would we ever do that if we have the same lines in Illustrator as vectors? So they are crisp and nice. Instead of rendering the lines and get them as rasters, which means they are going to be pixelated, you want to use them only as vectors. So we are not going to render any lines right now. We have already the Make 2D drawing. So nicely Tatiana said, then you need a plane. You need a ground so you can see shadows. Very nice. So plane. Same thing. And diffuse probably the same color as the composition, or white, something. So I have to go under my plane, material, and change the diffuse color to light gray or gray, whatever you guys want. Next. I need to create a big plane, right? So I will type plane. Is that correct? And then I will need to give a big corner and another corner, and I just created the plane. Yes. So select the plane, right click, apply material to selection. Nice. Next. Yes, here it is. And I'm gonna render. Noelia, did you do any extra step here? Right, so we could create a light so we get extra shadows, no? So I can go ahead. This looks pretty nice already, but why not let's create the light since we all know how to do it. So I will go under my lights. I will select my directional light as you can see in the screen. And very fast I will create a light that comes from the back side of my camera. Now, as you know, you have to move the light upwards and rotate the light so it looks somehow towards your scene. Right? The light looks good in 3D. We have spent lots of time looking at different ways for us to elevate and rotate the light so you guys can move with whatever way you learned so far. And now we'll go back to my favorite view, and I feel I'm better and ready to render again. And indeed my view now is more exposed and I get a little bit more definition when it comes to shadows. Before I didn't have this big shadow happening. Great. So let's all remember right now my resolution is very, very small, right? It's tiny. And also I can see here that my view takes a little bit of the shadows of another object. This is something for me to get rid of in InDesign. I will just crop everything. For now, I'm not going to bother to change my camera, obviously. Kelvi, did you have a question? Right, so the line we already made 2D, no? The line is there as a made 2D. So let's continue the process so you can see where the line comes in. So I will save that file, and I will have to save that file as, Kelvi, do you remember what's the file type that I need to save? Louder, please. You never export a rendering. You save a rendering. And you save a rendering as a PNG file. So down here you have many options. For this class we said that we will work with PNG, so we don't have background. So save as PNG. And here I have a PNG file of this render. I saved it on desktop. Let me go ahead and take a look. Here it is. If I double click, this is how it looks like. So I will move on. Yes. Right, so let's take a look at the end of the class, right? So this kind of personal questions, please you guys keep for the end of the class, no? So here I have my make 2D. Kelvin, this is your question. You remember where this drawing came from, no? Perfect. So this is open in Illustrator, and as you can see, you have the lines here. All of these red lines is your wireframe. And first thing you want to do is to make sure that under your layers you have two different hidden lines layers and two different visible line layers. Why? Because some of them are just your grid and the others are your composition. So I will select this boundary line, I will delete it, I don't really need that. It's the line that I used while I was exporting. So I was under the top view here, and when I said export to Illustrator, then the program created a line that was the boundary, as you can see my mouse, of my space, my workspace. Yes, Donovan. Then it's fine, you won't need it anyways, right? So I will select and delete that. It's under the viewport boundary layer, so you can even turn off that. And I will select of course my object and I will make it bigger. Who remembers how can I make these white arrows? Yes. Very nice, Kelly. So Kelly proposes that I press shift, but in order to press shift, I need to see the arrows. I don't see them because they're white. Okay, a few things. So Anton says move it outside and now you can see the arrows and move on with Kelly's proposition. No? That's cheating, Anton. The best way would be to, what? Change color, I think somebody said. So I will go in the layer, no? I will double click here, and instead of white, I will change all of the colors to something that I can see on top of a white background. Okay? Now they are greenish, so I can easily hold shift, as Kelvin mentioned, and make that very big and nice. How big this is? Jonathan, do you remember? Is he here? Yeah, he's here. Do you remember how can I validate that this is a good size for my book? Elsie? Okay, you guys, this should be answers you should have right away for now. I have to go under my rules. So I have to go under my view, rulers. So rulers, very nice, Tatiana. And I have 8.5 by 11 letter size. It seems like a good size for my book. Okay, next steps. Exactly what Noelia did was, she very fast selected everything. I believe she made everything black as a stroke. And you can do that either by double clicking here and moving all the way to the black, or go here and pick this color, black. This is what you get. Noelia, next steps. Yeah. So I have to first select all of the hidden lines probably and make them dust. So how do I select lines that belong in a layer in Illustrator? Tatiana, I think this is close to your question. So let's see. I want to select all of the hidden lines that belong in the layer of the hidden lines called spaces. So no, there is an easiest way. I'm trying to select all of the lines that belong under this layer. Oh, you guys, that's the long way though. You're locking the layers and then you're selecting this way. But that's why we have layer organization. So we have the possibility to select everything that belongs under the same layer. So I will go here to this small circle. I will click, and as soon as I click, all of the layers that belong here are selected. I can do the same for whatever layer I want. I will click and now I have different lines that belong in that layer. Okay, so now I have my hidden lines. I will go under the stroke menu. I will activate the dash line. I have proposed that you guys work with very tight dash, 2 by 2 most of the times. And this is how it looks like. It looks nice, I think. And I will do the same for the other family of hidden lines. So I will select them, dash line 2 by 2. Great. Next thing, the instruction said select all of the wireframe visible lines. So I will go to the layer, I will select all of them and make them gray and transparent. So how can I make them gray? I can either double click here and go towards the gray values, and here I create somehow an hierarchy. And also let's add some transparency. I will select again the objects. I will go under my window and I will search for transparency here. Here it is, menu of transparency. And under the opacity, instead of 100%, you want to say 50, 40, 60, whatever works best. Much better. Already I can see that this is a secondary thing. So all you do in Adobe programs is when you need any menu, you have to go under window and search for it. So transparency, even if you don't know that exists and you want to do something that relates to transparency because somebody told you to do so, you have to go under the window menu and figure out how this works. Questions? Yes, Donovan. Of course. No, I change transparency. If I select my objects and go now to the opacity, you will see that it's 60. So Donovan, what I'm doing is I'm changing strokes and stroke type for every layer, no? The only new thing, and I think we have mentioned that again, is the idea of transparency. So I will select the hidden lines of the wireframe of my grid. Here I can go under the specific layer, click on this small circle in the end. Now objects that belong in this layer are selected. Yeah, you see the layer says hidden lines over there? So these are the hidden lines of your wireframe. Yeah? So now I have the hidden lines. Already these lines have a stroke that is dashed. I can see it from this menu. The weight is 1. It's very, very big, so I will go ahead and make the weight 0.25 or even 0.1. And now I have dashed lines, they are light, and also I want them to be gray and transparent. So here's where you lost me, so follow now. How do I change the stroke color? I can easily double click here, go under this window, and move this small circle that picks color values to a lighter gray. Okay, so now they are gray. I can see already that my stroke has changed here to be gray. Second thing that you may want to do is to add some extra transparency for these lines, these orange lines that they are selected. Let's suppose you don't have the transparency menu in front of you. What you will be doing is that you will go under Window, Transparency, right? This is a menu. This new window will pop up. If you cannot see all of those, it means that you have to go under the Hide or Show option. So you can see this small arrow where my mouse is pointing out right now. Just expand this arrow and make sure that you have Show options here. You should all be able to see this opacity menu, no? Can you guys see that? So change that from 100 to 60. If I zoom in, I can now see that these lines are both gray and transparent, and on the other hand, these lines that they belong to my composition are black. If I change my opinion and I feel that this wireframe, the hidden lines of the grid wireframe is less intense, I can again select them and change the opacity from 60 to 90. Better. So all I'm doing basically is that I'm repeating what you guys have been doing in your books, right? Make 2D, open in Illustrator, and change line weights. Some of them will be dust, some other will be gray, some other will be black. That's all I'm doing so far. So you should all know every step. If you don't know, it means that you have to go home and do that 100 times. And I'm not exaggerating. Maybe even more. Overall questions in the process. Yes or no, you guys? Good, no? Okay, what else Noelia did here? Mm-hmm. So Noelia said that she wants to bring in here her PNG file, her render. So very nicely she said, I cannot just bring it in here. I have to create a new layer where this object will belong. How do I create new layer? This menu down here, this tab. If you click it, you will have a new layer. It's going to call by default the name, layer, and the number. You can double click and rename that to render. And as soon as you have that activated, which means bluish, right, highlighted, now you're ready to come and say File, Place, and from your wherever you saved your PNG file, from your browser, go ahead and select your file. Here it is. File Place was the menu that allowed me to bring a rendering on top of a series of line drawings. My goal is to overlay those two drawings so I get a better, a more sophisticated concept diagram, no? I have both shadows and crisp lines to describe this geometry. So what am I gonna do? Of course, I need to start placing one on top of the other. And now Tatiana would like your input, because this was your question. As you can see, this rendering, because it's an image, hides whatever is underneath. Some of the lines are still obvious though. Those hidden lines, I can still see them. What do you guys think is the problem here? Why I cannot see all of the lines? Why this image, hides some of them? Yes, Marvin. Right, so Marvin said if you guys look closely in this menu, you will see that this render layer is on top of all of those line layers. It's underneath the hidden line spaces, right? So it's underneath these lines. So the layer that is all the way to the top will hide whatever is underneath. Of course, the hidden lines cannot hide the render because they are transparent, they are just lines. On the other hand, the render, if I select and just drag it on top of everything, will hide all of my lines. So what I want to do, as Marvin implies, is that I want to select this layer and drag it all the way down so it's underneath my lines. So that's an idea of how you hierarchize your layers in any Adobe program. Now, how do you take this render and change a layer of this render? This is something we have seen in class. Tatiana, that was your question though, no? Yeah? So as far as I understand, your question was, how do I change layers, objects from one layer to another? Kelvin, you want to help out? Yeah, what you're saying is accurate and very good, but doesn't respond to this specific question of the layer. So what Kelvin is saying is that I'm not done yet here. I have to hold shift and then zoom in a lot and try to place this render underneath my line drawing and make it perfect. So of course, Kelvin, that's very accurate. We need to do this whole process. We need to resize it, always holding shift until we are perfectly satisfied with the overlay. And we will do that. Now, there was another question though, Kelvin. The question was, I have this object and I want to change the layer of this object. Now it's under the layer called render, and I want to create a new layer and place this object under the new layer. How do I do that? Who would like to help out? Ashley? No, that's not correct. So you cannot right click here in Illustrator or right, you need to drag it. So InDesign and Illustrator works with drag and drop. So if I create a new layer, and I will just call this layer test because it's just a test layer, what I want to do is to first select an object. This is the object that belongs under my test layer. I can easily see because this is now highlighted as a small square dot over there. So I will go to the dot and drag and drop from one layer to another. And now this belongs under the new layer called test. This is the way for you, of course, to change any object you want from one layer to another. So select the object. Now this object is under this layer called visible line spaces, the blue layer. Why? Because it's highlighted here, this blue dot. And I can select the dot and drag. I'm dragging now anywhere I want. So as soon as you have selected any object, the squares appear on their own. Okay? So you guys, you need to experiment with those things. The class cannot cover these things. These are logistics, believe me. These are not serious things. These are for you to work with them. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly, Tatiana. Right, right. So every time you select any object in your scene, the program, of course, informs you of where the object is located. Nice? So the layer is highlighted, and then you can drag and drop this object anywhere you want. And now that you are now very observative people, no? If you see some of the circles here are empty and some others have a fill, no? Can you guys see the difference? This is a circle with a fill. Why? Because this layer has transparency. So the program informs you right away visually which of the layers you have transparency. That's another thing that you have to start looking into. Every small detail of every symbol of the program means something. The render. So let me delete the render. So here I am. I pretend that I'm happy with this line drawing. Obviously, we will spend more time here, right? It's not a good drawing yet. And what I do in order to bring inside the new file is to go under File, Place, the same way you do in InDesign. Search in your browser, find your PNG, select your PNG, and say Place. Your PNG will come as part of your scene, and as you can see, it came under a layer called Test. Why it came here? Because it was there and it was highlighted. I will delete that. I will also delete those two layers, so I will drag them to the trash can, and I will do the same process. Let's all pay attention. I have highlighted the layer called Spaces Hidden Lines, this green layer. So if I go under File, Place, and again bring the same image, as you can see, this image now belongs under the layer it was highlighted. So whatever layer is highlighted, whatever object will you bring in is going to go there. Now, Noelia said, before I place my object, I will create a new layer, so I organize my work. If you don't do that, it's never late. You can now create a new layer. Name this layer render. And as we said, drag and drop. So I will select this dot from this layer and I will place it to the newly created layer. And now indeed, I have organized my work nicely. This layer now is on top of everything. So next step is to drag this layer all the way down so it doesn't cover my lines. And just to finalize the process, what Kelvin said was very, very accurate. Holding shift, start resizing your render so you make it fit perfectly to your lines. So you have done that already for your clay model. I would expect that we would do that much faster, but in any case, it's never late, it's never bad to repeat things. So, if I'm happy with that, I will save as PDF and I will import in my InDesign book the way that the instruction says, right? Now, before you say I'm happy, just make sure you guys that you understand what this drawing shows. It seems to me that this drawing is not perfectly accurate, so there are some lines that I don't understand. If this is the case, go back to Rhino and repeat the process. Something went wrong. For example, why this line here doesn't continue? This line is a hidden line of this box. It's up to you now to understand and solve your problems. You have all the tools you need, right? Just make sure that you look closely and you go back and you repeat steps and you understand what went wrong.